Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. We are going to be learning how to make this beautiful gown, and this is going to be very detailed, like I mean very detailed. Even if you don't know how to sew at all, how to draft, everything, you're going to be learning how to make this step by step. Okay, so let's get started. So we're going to be making use of this beautiful fabric. I actually have 3 yards of this fabric, so you can use any fabric. This lace fabric, you can use any one of your choice. Okay, so I'm using 3 yards. Then I'm going to be using this lining to line it. I'm trying to reduce cost. You can decide to use crepe, you can use doll face or satin to line your fabric. So we are going to be using this material. Okay, so you can use any material to line in it. So because I'm trying to reduce cost, that is why I am using a lining, normal lining, to line this. So now by now you should have all of your measurements. So we are going to be cutting the skirt part of this gown first. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to be cutting, the skirt. So you should know all of your measurements. You have all of your measurements now. So to get the skirt part, you're going to subtract your half length from your full length. So let's say your full length is 60 and your half length is 15. So 60 minus 15, that is 45. So that means your skirt is going to be 45 plus the ½ inch that you're going to be using to join it, the upper part. I hope you understand. Okay, so after you've gotten that, then you're going to cut it out. So if you want to use the selvage end, you can just go ahead and you measure it from the selvage end of the lace. Okay, if you're using lace, this lace, they have the selvage end, they have what they call ATRJ, you get. So you can start your measurement from there if you want that part to be showing at the hem of your skirt. But if not, you can just cut it anyhow and then you can join the ATRJ, or maybe you want to put something else at the hem. Okay, so but for me, I am going to be using the selvage end, the ATRJ, for mine. So I'm going to start my measurement from there and I'm going to work it up. I hope you understand. So if you want to do that, see, this is the way I'm placing my tape measure. So you're just going to get your measurement, just like I said, and you add your joining allowance to it and you mark it out, then you cut it out. Okay, so that is if you're doing exactly this style. If you're doing mermaid and the likes, you know that it's not going to be like this. I already made a video for mermaid, so you can go ahead and check if you want to make a mermaid gown as well. Okay, so now all we are going to be doing is cut. So you go ahead and you cut. Make sure that you have your perfect measurement, and for the width is the quarter of your waist. Okay, the quarter of your largest measurement, which is your hip, most usually you get, but sometimes it might not be. So your largest measurement, so let's say your hip is 40, on fold you're cutting 10 inches plus your joining allowance. So mine, I added 2 inches sewing allowance. Okay, so now I've placed the front part on the back. I'm going to be using zipper for this, so I added 1.5 inch for the zipper allowance for the back, and then that is going to be the measurement that I'm going to be using for the back. I hope you understand. The largest part of your measurement, the quarter of it, plus your joining allowance, that's what you're going to be using for your fold, like this. I hope you get. So now we have to place our horizontal measurement. So I'm placing quarter of my waist measurement. So if your waist is 36 divided by 4 plus your joining allowance, so I added 2 inches for my joining allowance. I hope for my sewing allowance. So now for the hip, I came down by 9 inches. Okay, 9 inches for the hip. It usually works for, let's say, from size 6 to 16. Okay, but go ahead and measure your hip depth. Okay, so then that's where I'm going to be placing quarter of my hip measurement. So quarter of my hip measurements plus my joining allowance. Like I said, I am adding 2 inches for my joining allowance. Then you're going to be connecting to the waist. So now if you want it to be fitted at the waistline, okay, so you're going to come down by 18. I usually come down by 18 inches, but you can go ahead and measure your knee measurement. Okay, where you want it to, to have that fish shape where your knee part is going to be tight. So now the measurements you're going to be using is -2 of the measurements that you place on your hip. So let's say your normal hip is 40, yeah, so 40 divided by 4, that's 10, plus 2 inches joining allowance, so that's 12. So let's say that I mark 12 inches on my hip line. So on the knee line I'm going to subtract 2 inches, so that means on my knee line I'm going to be putting 10 inches. I hope you understand. So if you do it this way, it's going to be very fitted on your knee, then you have that, that fish shape effect. I hope you understand. But if you don't want it to be as very tight on your knee, you can use between 1 inch, to half or 1.5 inches. I hope you understand. So if you do it this way, subtract 2 inches, it's going to be fitted, and you're still going to have the freedom to move your legs. You can see how deep it is. Okay, so you can go ahead and then you do this. But like I said, this was how I did mine, and then you saw the result at the beginning. So we are practically done with the down part. So I'm just trying to, just shaping it. So if you have any sharp edges, just trim it off. So now I'm going ahead to notch the important part. So I'm notching my knee, okay, and I'm going to notch my hip as well. So I'm doing this so that when I want to join, I know that, okay, this is the hip line, this is the knee line. I hope you understand. So it's very important for you to notch. So I'm just trying to measure the hip again, plus the ½ inch that we're going to be using. So like I said, always put your joining allowance into consideration whenever you want to draft or whenever you want to cut out your fabric. The joining allowance, the sewing allowance, always add it to it and put it into consideration. I hope you understand. So I'm just notching all of this so that I know which part is going to which part, even without measuring my fabric or my hip depth or knee depth again while sewing. Then after you've gotten that, the next is to just separate the back part. We're going to be putting zipper at the back, so you just separate it like that, and then you have 2 parts. So that's what I am trying to do. So if you are confused about any part, just let me. Like I said, this tutorial is going to be very, very detailed. So if you've never sewn anything before, if you don't know how to cut, with this tutorial you are going to be able to, because I'm not skipping any part. Okay, so now we are done with the cutting of the main fabric. Now we are going to the lining. So I'm going to be cutting the same measurement for the lining, and I told you that I'm using this ordinary lining for mine. Okay, so now for the lining, because we are using that salvage edge for the lace, so we don't want the lining to be the same length as the lace. So you're going to be, the length of your lining is going to be 2 inches shorter than the main fabric. I hope you understand. Okay, so let's say the full length is 42, your lining is going to be 40 inches or thereabouts. Just make sure that your lining is not going to be showing, after your main fabric. I hope you understand. So I just said, let me just show you so that you're not confused. You can see where my lining is at. You can see that it is shorter than the main outfit. You can see the positioning. Okay, so make sure that everything is well positioned, and then you cut it out. Make sure it is aligned, and then you cut it out. So if you've gotten to this point and you haven't subscribed, make sure you click the subscribe button. So take your time to watch all of this, as I am taking my time to also explain and all. So we are just going to cut, and then we are practically done with the lower part. So you can see it's very simple. So just go ahead, take your time. See the way I'm positioning my ends. So whenever you're cutting, that is how you position your ends, so that your fabric does not move out of place. Okay, so your fabric does not move out of place. So now we are done. So you go ahead and then you also notch your knee and your hip line, so that when you're joining, you're sure that, okay, this is where this is supposed to be at. I hope you understand. So I have done this. So now you know that this is the back. We have to separate the center back as well, as we're going to be joining it too. So if you're using other fabric, let's say you're using crepe or the likes, you can also do the same thing, and then you cut lining. You get, so usually you're supposed to use like 2 layers, because this is This is a see-through fabric, so you use one lining plus the fabric as just one part, then you use another one as lining. Okay, I hope you understand. So that means you're supposed to be cutting two linings for each, but because I am trying to, manage the fabric and not the fabric, I'm trying to manage the cost. Yes, I'm trying to manage the cost. That is why I'm using this, and also I'm still going to be draping, so it's not really going to show. So now we need to join the lining, so you place it on the right side of your main fabric and then you join the sides, because we want the inside to be neat. I didn't been not trying to reduce the costs. We are supposed to do inseam finishing, but since we are not doing that, we still have to make our work neat. That is why I am going through this process. Don't worry, when we are done, you see the inside of this fabric, this outfit, you see how neat it is. So even with little cost, you can still come out with something presentable and practical. So for the back also, you join the center back and also the side. Okay, so you seal up every part of it. I hope you understand. So I'm going to do that and I am going to show you the result. So I have gone ahead to join my fabric to my lining. Like I said, if you have a lot of budgets, you can do inseam finishing. One fabric and one lining will be one fabric, and then the other part is going to be the lining. I hope you understand. So after you've already joined this, the next thing you're supposed to do is you iron. Make sure you iron as much as possible, and also make sure you hem your lining if it's the rough edge that is at the bottom part of your lining, like you can see that down part. So you can go ahead and hem it so that it's not going to the thread is not going to pull out of the fabric. I hope you get. So just go ahead and then you line it and you iron it. So make sure you give it a very good press. I hope you understand. So give it a very good press, and then we are practically done with the skirt part. So let's move to the upper part. So you can see that this is very simple and very easy to do. So now for the upper part, that is where we are going to be focusing on next. So you can see that I already drafted out my major box, but I'm going to be explaining it how I got the box. So to get this box, the wideness of your box, what you need is the largest part of your upper part, which is usually the bust. Okay, so if it's not your bust, any part, if it's your stomach, any part that is the largest part. So let's say your bust is 40, so it's 40 inches, and which is the largest part. So 40 divided by 220, so 20 inches, that's going to be the width of your box plus allowance. So you can add like 2 to 4 inches. So let's say you can use 22 or 24 as your box. So after getting that, then you now further divide it into two, like that line you can see, but the total width of your box is half of your largest part of your measurement. So after you've gotten that, then you now divide it. So we'll be using one part for the front and one part for the back pattern. I love drafting both the front and the back pattern simultaneously. So if you don't know how to draft a basic bodice, I have a much more detailed tutorial on how to do that, so you can check it out, but I'm still going to be explaining in this video. So now for the length is the half length, and for this is 17 inches, while for the back is 15 inches. As we know that the half length for the back is usually shorter than the front, because we have the bust in front, which makes it longer than that of the back, so we have to do that. So for the back is 15 inches. That means the difference between my front and my back is 2 inches. I hope you understand. So that was what I just did for the back, like that, and then I measured it. So now let's move to the further horizontal measurement. So now for the bust point, the bust point is 10.5, while the under bust is 14.5. So that is what I'm marking from my shoulder. So I'm marking 10.5 for the bust point and 14.5 for the under bust, and I am going to be connecting. Note that the bust is in the front, so we're only doing this for the front pattern. Okay, so only doing this for the front pattern. So you go ahead and then you connect your line with your ruler, then you go ahead and you label, this is bust point. Okay, yeah, bust point. Bust point is from your shoulder to your nipple. That is what is called bust point. Another bust is from your shoulder to the under of your bust. I hope you understand. So now that is bust point and under bust and waistline. So let's move further. So now to get our armhole, we need to draft out our shoulder. So the shoulder is 16 inches. So 16 divided by 2, which is 8 inches. That is what you're going to be placing on your pattern. So I'm placing 8 inches on my pattern like so. Then for my width, the neck width, I'm using 3.5. This is totally up to you, okay? So you can use any one that you want so, or you can use this basic measurement, your hip divided, your bust divided by 12. So you can use that as your neck width, okay? So you can use that formula for your neck width, your bust divided by 12. So you're going to have a perfect neck width. So if you want it wider, then you can now work on that. I hope you understand. So now I've gotten our neck width and then our shoulder. So now the next thing is to get our shoulder slope. So for my shoulder slope, I'm going to be using 0.75 for the front. So you can see what I'm marking, 0.75 for the front, while for the back I'm going to be using 0.5. Just go and watch that detailed tutorial on how to draft the basic bodice. You're going to have a better understanding. So I'm going to be connecting the shoulder slope to the nape of the neck, as you can see me do. So you just connect to that part. So now the next thing is to get our armhole. Now to get your armhole, it is your bust measurements divided by 6 plus 1.5, or your bust measurement divided by 4 minus 1.5. So you can use either of the formula. So let's say that your armhole from that calculation is now 8 inches. Yeah, so you now determine where you want to put your armhole, either in the front or the back. So if it's the back, you're going to be adding that measurement plus half inches and then you measure it round. If it's for the front, you're going to add by 0.75 and you mark it like that. I hope you understand. So let's say your armhole, the measurement, the results that you got from that formula is 8 inches. Then you want to place your shoulder at the your armhole at the back. You know our slope is 0.5, so the measurement is going to be 8.5. So that means you're going to be marking 8.5 all round. So that is going to be your chest line. I hope you understand. So it's very simple, very easy to do. So you can see what I'm doing. So it's very simple to do. Just take your time. If you're confused about any part, just watch the video again. So this part is going to be our chest line. So now we are going to be placing, to get our armhole, so we are going to be placing the half of our shoulder, which is 8 inches. We're going to be placing it, same measurements that we placed on our shoulder, you're going to be placing it on the chest line. So now to remove the zipper bulge, I came in by half inch on the waistline at the back, and I'm just going to be connecting it straight. Okay, so this is to prevent zipper bulge, okay, so that your zip is going to be resting well. So if you want to change it to corset, you can also go ahead, and then I have a lot of tutorials on corset, so you can do your back as corset instead of normal zipper like I am doing. So you can just check out other videos if you want to do that, the loop for the back as well. But for this, I am doing zip, okay, because I want easy access. I don't want to be looking for somebody to help me, tie my corset. So you join, then you just join it together like that. So you can see you connect the lines together. So now to get the curved part for the front, I came up by 3 inches for the front, and I came in by 0.75. You can see what I'm doing. So if you do all of this, you're going to get a very perfect result. So but for the back, I'm going to be dividing the armhole into 2 equal halves. Okay, so into 2 equal halves, then I'm going to be going in by half inch. You can see. So now I'm going to be placing the quarter of my bust measurement on the chest line. So I'm going to be placing it like this in order to know where the armhole is going to stop at. Okay, so I'm going to be doing the same thing, and you can see that I am starting from away from where my zipper bulge is. So you can see that it's not from the beginning of the paper. Okay, so it's after that line, that is where I am placing my measurements, because you're going to cutting that place out. So now it is time to connect all of our lines together. So if you're enjoying to this point, make sure you drop a comment, tell me where you are watching from, okay, and join the community. So now you go ahead and you join to that part. Okay, so just connect everything, so you can see the way I'm blending it to where my quarter of my bust circumference is stopping at. So you can support this channel with super thanks and any other, so that this is going to give us the resources to make more interesting tutorials for you. Okay, so go ahead and support the channel. So now let's continue. So I'm going to be placing my bust dart. Okay, so that is the center front. If you're familiar with this channel, you see I always say label as much as possible. So the bust span is 7 inches. The bust span is nipple to nipple measurements, which is 7 inches. So, and you know that that part is going to be on fold, so that means we are marking 3.5 half of our bust. Half of our bust span. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the back, but as you can see, I started away from my zipper bulge half inches, so I'm marking 4 inches for the back. So you just go ahead and then you connect. So now you determine how wide you want your dart to be. Okay, so if you're from, let's say, bust 34 downwards, you can use 0.5, but if you are above, you can use like 0.75 on both sides, so that means 1.5 inches. But if you are more bustier, you can even use up to 1 inches on both sides, so that's going to give you that curvy effect and shape. I hope you understand. So you go ahead and you connect. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing for the back as well. So you're going to do the same thing and then just connect the dart legs together like so, just like you see me do. Okay, so I'm going to be connecting the other part as well. So yeah, so we are practically done with the dart. So now we're practically done with the back part. So now let us move to the front part of this, where the main issue is at. So but first of all, we need to take our measurements and then we connect everything together before we move forward. So I'm going to be placing quarter of my waist measurement. So you put quarter of your waist measurement on your waistline plus your dart allowance. Okay, so I'm going to be putting our dart allowance and I'm going to be connecting to my armhole where the quarter of my bust circumference is at, as you can see. So it's looking all straight now. Don't worry, when you wear it, you're going to get that curvy shape. Okay, so don't worry about that. So you can see that I'm measuring away from the bust bulge that we cut out. Okay, so that is what I'm doing for the back. So make sure that all of your measurement is after that part that we're going to be trimming off for to eliminate the bust bulge. So now we are done. Now let us work with the bustier that we want to do. So now you need to determine how low you want this to be. I usually do 2 inches above my chest line. Okay, so I usually do 2 inches above my chest line, so you usually fall between 7 to 7.5 from your shoulder line. So that is where my cleavage is gonna start from, and it usually works for me. So if you want it to be a bit higher, you can still go higher, but 7 inches is okay. But if you want it to be more, so just do anything that works for you. Like I said, do anything that works for you. I'm going to give you the measurement and everything that I use so you can alter it. So now you're going to divide your shoulder. You see, you divide it into 2. See what I did? So you divide it into 2 and then you connect to your bust point. All of your measurement is going to be connected at the bust point, because that is where where we want our shaping and everything to start from, either coming down or going up. I hope you understand. So now we need to tighten our over bust. So now you determine what you want to tighten it with. So you can use 0.5 inches, okay, for yours on both sides. Okay, so that is dependent on you. I use 0.75 for the first side and 0.5 for the other side, so you can also do that as well. Now we're going to be connecting to our bust point. I told you that all of our connection is going to the bust point. Okay, so if you're not satisfied with what your French curve is giving you, you can go ahead and shape in everything with your ends. Okay, so if it's not giving you what you want, just use your ends to do it. So if you do this, your bust your over bust is going to be tightened. Okay, so you can see I have is 1.5 that I used to tighten my over bust. So we are moving forward. So now the next thing is to tighten our under bust. Now to tighten your under bust, what you need is the measurements that you have on paper like this. So now you're going to be subtracting it from the quarter of your under bust circumference. Okay, so let's say your under bust circumference is 34, so 34 divided by 4, so you subtract it from the measurements that you have on this pattern. So let's say the quarter of your bust point is 8.5, okay, of your under bust I mean is 8.5. Then when you now measure it on paper, you have 10 inches. So 8.5 minus 10.5, you're going to be getting 1.5. So you're going to be using 1.5 to tighten your under bust. So from the one that is on facing the side front, you can use maybe like 1 inch for that. Then the one that is facing your center front, you can use half inches for that. I hope you understand. So you can just make sure that the largest part that you're going to be using is at the side front, okay, because we have just little at the center front, so you don't want it to be too, you get. So you can see what I'm doing. So you just go ahead and then you just connect everything. I hope you understand. So the underbust is very, very important. The tightening of the underbust is very important because that is what is going to give it that shape. Okay, so quarter of your underbust circumference minus the quarter measurements that your pattern is giving you, that is what you're going to use to tighten your underbust. Do you get? Yeah. So now you go ahead and you connect to your waist. We are practically done. Okay, so now we need to tighten the difference between, but before we do that, let's just shape in that front part. Okay, so now if you want to do a deep cleavage, you get the if you want to do the so if you want to do a plunging neckline, okay, so this is where you're going to be doing that. So now you determine how wide you want it to be. Okay, you determine how wide you want your plunging neckline to be. So from the down part here, let's say you want it to plunge to the waistline, so you determine how wide you want it to be. Note that this is on fold, so whatever measurement that you're doing is going to be multiplied by 2 once you open it up. So let's say you want it to be tiny, so you can use like half inch for the opening, so that means you're going to be measuring 0.25 for that. Then you also need to determine that your bust, your chest line, how wide you want it to be on your chest line. Okay, so you determine that. So let's say you want like 1.5 for your chest line when you open it, so that means you're going to be coming in by 0.75. then you now connect all the lines together like that. So I hope you understand. So you go in like that and then you connect all the way down. Then you have your plunging neckline. So everything is at your discretion how deep you want it to be. Then you just, if you follow my route like that, you're going to get it. So now let's go to close our bust dart. So you know that your bust dart is the difference between your waist line, the length of your front and length of your back. Remember that the difference between our length is 2 inches. So I measured 2 inches from my bust point down and I connected to my bust point. I hope you understand. So I'm not going to be doing a plunging neckline and I don't want it to be too deep, so I'm just coming down like that, a little bit down my chest line. If you want it to be a bit deeper, it is at your discretion. That's why you have a pattern paper. Play around with, play around with it, let your creativity lead you and guide you into creating beautiful pieces. Okay, so you can go ahead and then just cut out the upper part if you don't want a yoke for yours. Okay, so just go ahead and cut it out and you're practically done. So you can just go ahead and also shape in the side as well, just like you see me do. So just let your creativity guide you and lead you wherever you want. Okay, so play around with your pattern paper, and then that is how you create beautiful pieces. Okay, so once you understand the rudiments, then every other thing is just going to be a play. You get, so the other part is going to be your yoke, and the same thing for the back as well. That is if you're going to be joining a yoke. But for this gown, you can see that we added a yoke to it, so we're going to be working with the yoke. Okay, so now if you do not want a yoke, you want it to be, you don't want a yoke. Okay, so it's not going to have a yoke, or it's not going to have a sleeve. So you just go up on your armhole, you go up by 1 inch like that, and then you connect everything together, because if it's too low, your bust and everything is going to be showing. But since you're not going to be putting a sleeve, it's going to be sleeveless, or it's not going to have a yoke at the upper part, you have to go up a bit. Okay, so that it's going to close up any excesses, so your bust is not going to be showing at the side. Do you understand? So just go up by 1 inch from your armhole, just to cover your side boobs and the likes, and then you cut it off. That is if you are not going to be adding a yoke to it. I hope you understand. So you're practically done. You go ahead and then you cut it out. So in the next video, we are going to be learning how to cut and how to sew. So you can do any neckline of your choice. Okay, so I'm just doing a simple neckline, came down by 5 inches. So you can go ahead and do any neckline of your choice. So in the next video, we're going to be learning how to cut and how to sew, and also how to join it to the down parts and the draping and the likes, because this video is long as it is already. So I don't want it to be longer than this, so that it's going to be very easy to watch. Okay, so that it's not going to be too long. You get to know when some people say, oh, 1 hour, you can feel overwhelmed. So that is why I'm going to be breaking it into session. So in the next video, you're going to be learning how to cut and how to sew. And like I said, this is going to be very, very detailed. You're going to learn how to join your pad together, your bustier together, and you're going to have a very perfect result. Perfect. I'm going to show you how to join it perfectly. Don't worry, I'm going to show you on the sewing machine, okay, how to join it together. I'm going to come out with a very perfect shape, okay, with a very perfect shape. Also, I'm going to teach you how to join the plungy neckline, or the sweetheart neckline, the deep parts. Okay, because sometimes it might be difficult for some people if you're not used to it, or you might not have the results that you desire. So I'm going to teach you how to join a yoke, v-neck yoke, to the other parts of your outfit, and you can apply it to every other part of any outfit if you are working with a very deep shape, okay, like the one that we have. So you're going to be able to apply it. You're going to learn so much in the other tutorial. So if you're having difficulty attaching your yoke, once you attach your yoke is not sitting properly, you get, because of that deep v-neck, don't worry, everything you're going to be learning it in the other video. So go ahead and you label your pattern. Like I said, always label as much as possible, so that even when you go back in the next 5 years, you know which part is going to which part, because you've already labeled your pattern paper. So you label as much as possible. So in order to close up the yoke, so you're going to have the same, so you can see what I did. So you just close up that part, so that it's going to align with the yoke once you cut it out. I hope you get. So now you go ahead and then you cut and you cut and you cut, and you're done. So see you in the next one, where we're going to be learning a lot more. Bye.